Footage has been published by the BFMTV, which shows the French Navy in Saint-Nazaire and Russian oil tanker, Saint-Nazaire, France. Wouldn't they just go to Kaliningrad? Why would they be in Saint-Nazaire? Why would there be a Russian tanker here, having anything to do with drones in Denmark? Wouldn't Russia come from here? It's our shadow fleet for oil trading. There was drones in France? You have to think about this. Vladimir Putin is a grown-ass man and he sits in an office. Oh, we should send drones into all of Europe. Like that is what happens, right? It's so crazy.
These narrow passages around Denmark are vital for Russia's war economy. The Danish Straits, like consisting of the Great and Little Belt and the Öresund, are important choke points for international shipping trade to and from the Baltic. One country is especially dependent on them: Russia. The country's most important commercial ports are on the Baltic. So, at least 30% of Russia's seaborne crude oil exports have to pass through the Danish Straits. But Russia's oil exports are sanctioned by the European Union. Why do Russian oil tankers still cross through EU waters?
Because we need their oil,
Because
man.
Russia uses a shadow fleet of tankers. Let's look at this Russian ship, known as Udaya. In June 2025, it departed from Russia and crossed the Danish Straits. But under the flag of the African island...
Is that like illegal or some shit? Dude, we should have submarines there, bro. What the fuck? We gotta board these motherfuckers. I always wonder, how do we allow this? This seems mega illegal. How do we allow this?
The nation of Comoros. Up to 3 Shadow Fleet tankers cross the Danish Straits every day under false flags. They are often
And we're just letting that happen?
old, not always properly registered or insured, and fail to meet international safety standards. They risk causing accidents and oil spills
And we do nothing
wherever they
about it.
sail. But that's not the only danger posed by these ghost tankers. They are
You can't prove it? No, you have like a European a Coast Guard. You send them in with some AR-15s and you're like, document. You speak African, bro? You look kind of Russian. You look like an Ivan.
suspected of conducting
Just
espionage, sabotaging
investigate these
underwater
people.
cables, and even launching drones. Foreign drones flying over military facilities in Denmark recently forced the government to temporarily shut the NATO country's airspace to civilian drone flights. The Danish government could not rule out that Russia was behind this. With all that in mind, why does Denmark allow the tankers to pass through their waters? While the
A detained tanker, Pushpa, also known as Boracay, is sailing under the flag of Benin. On the morning of September 20th, it departed from the port of Primorsk and was headed to the Indian city of Vadinar. The funny thing is, this tanker had already been detained by Estonia on April 11th when it was called Kivala and was sailing under the flag of Djibouti. In short, it changed its passport and country registration. There has to be a way how adult people figure out that it's a Russian shadow tanker. There has to be a way to do that, man. You fucking detain them, you call Djibouti. Djibouti, you know these people? There has to be a way to do that, man.
EU could toughen up on the ship registration process and port monitoring, Denmark is bound to keep the Danish Straits open under international law. And as the ghost tankers often turn off their transponders, their location is not easy to track. Fully blocking Russian ships from the Danish Straits is therefore not an option. These narrow
to me, that sounds once again we're just
Denmark
little pussies. We're always pussing out about this fucking Russian shit, man. Hitler, you keep getting your Venezuelan oil, man. We don't mind Hitler, don't worry. Russians are not talking about defeat.
Welcome back, Defenders.
I like this guy, man. This
I
guy
have
is
good
really
news from our friends in Moldova.
I just found him.
Moldova's pro-EU party won the election on Sunday.
Oh, man, I didn't even pay attention. The thing with TommyKay News is I gotta do it every day. I can't keep up. Huge. Nice. How did it turn out? Putin probably tried very hard to have Moldova on his side.
The Russians lost yet again. Thank God.
I
Here
like
are the
this
election
guy.
results.
50%? Nice. Nice. 1.5 million votes. Nice.
Pro-EU party got just over 50% of the votes, while the pro-Russian party got 24% of the vote. And look at the symbol that the pro-Russian party in Moldova uses. It is a red star with a Soviet
Must be like old boomers that still are used to the old times or some shit.
hammer and sickle inside of a heart icon. That is a super manly symbol you guys use in Moldova. The pro-Russian party calls themselves the Patriotic Bloc.
They are legit real Russians? They're like cultural Russians?
And yes, the Russians are upset. Kremlin claims Moldova barred...
Yeah. Moldova did fake elections, yes. Can anyone still take anything the Kremlin says serious? Like this, at this point, you should just not even listen to them anymore. The Kremlin says, I don't care what the Kremlin says.
Hundreds
it's just
of thousands
all a
from
bunch
voting
of
in Russia.
blobby-blub.
It's reported that the Russians spent about $500 million buying votes in this election, and they still lost. And they're complaining that citizens of Moldova living in Russia weren't allowed to vote. When really, these are citizens of Transnistria. The Russian military has been occupying this border region for over 30 years. And
the Russian military is there? How do we allow that? Why do we allow in Kaliningrad? Why do we allow shadow tankers? Why do we allow this authoritarian country to be in Transnistria?
They grant Russia
Putin will never play by these rules.
Passports to their citizens. So residents from...
There are certain laws that international shipping routes have to be left open and stuff. Well, you can change laws, man. We have a fucking war. We have a tyrant in the Kremlin, and you want to just let them do their little shadow fleet, man?
Transnistria,
there's totally something
a
that could
rebel
be done.
breakaway region, have been relocating to Russia for a better life. And the Russian government is upset that these people weren't allowed to vote in Moldova's election, when this territory is militarily occupied and in open rebellion. So no, I don't think any of Russia's claims are valid. The real people of Moldova, they want peace, they want prosperity, they want to join the European Union, and now they get to.
Nice.
Here's the Polish Prime Minister.
Fuck yeah, hell yeah.
It took real courage of
My
the
taxes should
Moldovan
totally go
nation
there,
and
100%.
President Sandu personally to win this election. Not only did you save democracy and kept the European course, but you have also stopped Russia in its attempts to take
Very
over
nice.
the whole region. A good lesson for us all. Here's the President to the EU Commission. Moldova, you've done it again. No attempt to sow fear or division could break your resolve. You made your choice clear. Europe, democracy, freedom. Our door is open, and we will stand with you every step of the way. The future is yours. Here is the President of Moldova, Sandu, and Moldova has problems. All of their problems are caused by the Russians. If Ukraine can defeat the Russian military on the battlefield, then Transnistria will fall, Moldova will be reunited, and they'll have a peaceful and prosperous future
Interesting
in
region
the
I don't know much
European
about.
Union and eventually NATO. But we have to win this war first. So let's get to the updates on the fuel crisis, and Russia is still running out of gasoline. Fuel shortages continue to wreak havoc on the entire country. Here is a local news report. I think these are fascinating. And this is in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region. I'm going to play this clip for you, and we'll watch about a minute and a half.
Перебои с бензином продолжаются в Нижегородской области. Вчера мы показывали репортаж из Перевозского района, где школьники даже не пошли в школы, так как школьные автобусы нечем было заправить. Сегодня эту проблему уже решили, но остается проблема на малых АЗС. Если в крупных сетях бензин есть, то на частных заправках его нет. Сегодня мы проехали по трассе, ведущей на север Нижегородской области.
Бензина нет и никого нет. Здрасте. А нет бензина, да?
Недели 3, наверное, нет.
Торгуем только газом и бензином топливом. И всё.
Кто выпил весь бензин без нас?
Не знаю, кто-то выпил.
Давно нет бензина-то?
Недели 3 уже нету.
У нас здесь.
Здесь у нас.
Так я что, так долго на машине не ездил к вам в вашу сторону?
Скорее всего, так, наверное. И Линди вон тоже нету ничего. Вот проедьте дальше.
А бензин-то есть?
Вот написано нет.
Нет бензина?
Вот написано перед вами нет. Бывает возмущаются, бывает нет. Люди ко всему привыкают.
Sometimes people get angry, sometimes not.
Здрасте.
People get used to everything. That's kind of
На
deep, man.
телевидении сети на бензин есть?
Нет, бензина нет.
Никакого.
Ну,
This
бензин
guy's TV, he looks like a
есть у
regular
нас,
dude,
но
man.
для организаций.
То есть для медицинских служб?
We
Да.
drive to Kazakhstan to fuel
А давно
there.
нет-то?
Недели 2.
Бензина нет, как же будете?
Нас заправляют.
Вас заправляют?
Да.
А вы какая служба?
This is an interesting statistic, but 67% of gas stations in Russia are privately owned, and they cover a vast part of the country. There are reports that now that these gas stations are not being resupplied, they're just closing entirely. They weren't really operating at much of a profit to begin with, and now with fuel shortages, they're just going to close down. I think this is fascinating that in this video, this woman is wearing a shirt that says California. But they're saying that some of these gas stations have a small reserve and only basically ambulances or fire trucks or police officers are allowed to buy fuel now from these gas stations. But the situation in Crimea is probably the worst in the country now. Russian-controlled Crimea rations gasoline as the fuel crisis deepens. This is the governor of Crimea, and if you saw my last video, in my last video he was promising everything for 95.
Russia is so oil and gas rich, but we can't supply cheap gas for our citizens. It's an embarrassment. I would think your government has a lot of embarrassments in the last year. So.
Gasoline would be resolved in 2 days, and everything for 92 gasoline would be resolved within 2 weeks. Well, he's adjusting that proclamation, and this is what he's saying.
What's he going to do, huh?
Dear colleagues, dear Crimeans, I want to say a few words regarding the fuel shortage. The situation is under control, and we are operating in manual mode. Starting today at 3 p.m., there will be a limit of 30 liters per person. We will coordinate this at all.
I feel like this, at least in Germany, if any official would make a statement like that, you would instantly have hoarding. People would instantly start hoarding. They even hit another oil refinery today. Fire at major oil refinery in Russia's Yaroslav is under control. Apparently, there was a strike on a oil refinery in the Yaroslav region. Ukraine keeps
all
coming.
Gas stations without exception. I ask all Crimeans to be patient. We are currently in a situation where it is objectively not
like
possible to quickly change the situation.
So
but as we said, we have just recently...
I'll never forget this scene. I was in Kaufland with my girlfriend and we're just buying groceries during Corona, and there's this family, and they looked a bit like white trash, like fat and uneducated idiots, and they bought all the toilet paper, and the entire grocery store just looked at them, and it was this symbol of, it just needs one idiot. Everybody was normal, but these idiots bought like everything, and the staff had to even tell them, you're buying too much, you can't do that, and they would make drama. It just takes one idiot, you know?
Recently sorted out the main logistics issues regarding 95 gasoline. If there is no panic buying, we will get through this stage without major losses. What do you guys think? Will there be panic buying now that more...
An hour ago, blackout at Chernobyl after Russian bombardment.
Russians know there's a shortage, and these are the reports we're now getting.
Is Chernobyl?
Russians siphoning out gasoline from parked cars. Any parked car. Russians have figured it out that if they just steal gasoline, they can use it for themselves, or they can sell it on the black market for a huge profit. I think cases like this are going to become more common going.
An emergency situation has been declared by the Ukrainian Energy Ministry at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in the Kiev Oblast of northern Ukraine after shelling today by Russian forces damaged energy infrastructure in the city of Slavuchi, cutting power to the new safe confinement, which houses Reactor 4, the reactor that was the cause of and was destroyed by Chernobyl in disaster in 1986. How much more does the world have to watch until we fucking do something, man?
Forward. And there's not much Russia can do in the short term. They're putting up drone cages everywhere they can, but
oh, look at that.
I don't even think these drone cages stop the drones. In addition,
wow,
I think
insanity,
Ukraine is going to start using ballistic missiles or cruise missiles. And I don't think a net is going to stop a cruise missile. Here is an
Russia is so rich in gas, they just have to take it from park cars. Ukraine warns of critical situation at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant left without external power for a week. Under Russian control has been without external power for a week. Shelling cut off the grid, forcing to rely on diesel generators. The generators at the plant were not designed for this, have never operated in this mode for long, and we already have information that one generator has failed. He's stressing that the situation is critical and that it's the Russians, for their shelling, who are preventing repairs to this power line. The Russians installed communications director for the plant, Yevgenia Yashinya, told the Russian state news agency of TASS that all the diesel generators supplying the facility were operating normally. Yeah, it's a Russian though. They will always just lie, man. Not good, not bad. Everything good in Chernobyl. International Atomic Energy Agency also commented on the situation. The agency said that for now, the emergency generators are performing adequately. They're fucking like with nuclear power plants, man. When are we gonna go in, bro? When are we going in? We're gonna drink coffee in your house, John. Not good, not terrible. Thank you, Blue Melons.
Interesting video from Maxim Kalishnikov. This guy is a Russian propagandist, and he's been unusually honest the last couple weeks. With Gherkin in jail and Prigozhin dead, we don't really get a lot of good videos from Russians willing to speak the truth. But this guy has been pretty honest. And if I were to write, like, a fake story and I wanted to...
It's a good sign when even the most hardcore Russian Nazi boys are becoming a bit critical.
It's a good sign for us. A Russian bad guy, I would give him the name Maxim Kalishnikov. So that's an incredible name. But here is what he's saying about the state of the war. The war is now waged not for the complete destruction of the Russian Federation, of course, but for its shattering. First and foremost, of course, economically. Since you understand that the drop in oil export revenues against the backdrop of not very high oil prices is, so to speak, a steel beam blow below the belt. In essence, the war is being waged in earnest to ensure our defeat. And defeat doesn't necessarily mean that, excuse me, the Ukrainians will spring some huge call.
This feels a little bit sometimes like Kaiserreich, where if you lose an early game war in Kaiserreich, you have a rebellion in your country. But I feel like the potential of a Russian rebellion seems very low, right? Russians are very used to, since medieval times, to authoritarian overlords. And it's probably very hard to rebel against Putin and his goons.
Cauldron or reach Moscow? Of course not. Defeat can be sustained by experiencing economic collapse in one's own rear.
It feels like rebellious spirit only grows when you really feel shit, when your life is really in danger. When you know your parents, your children, your brothers and sisters are in trouble. I think that's when there needs to be enough pressure, and I think the big cities don't have any pressure.
And all subsequent events. This has happened before in world history. Yes, the Russians in World War I. They know this. And you understand that these are just links in a single chain. In that same chain of this war aimed at our shattering.
What does that mean? The war is aimed at our shattering. What does that mean? Ah, in his brain, it's NATO attacking Russia. That's why he's probably talking like that, right? Oh, they're talking to Russians. I'm gonna watch that in a second, after this. Thanks for all the links, man. You guys are really helping me.
Include the strikes on oil refineries, which have already begun on a completely large-scale, methodical basis. These are strikes on oil pumping stations of the Druzhba pipeline, attempts to strike the pumping stations of the Blue Stream pipeline, gas to Turkey. These are very evidences of this war being conducted.
Russians talk so weird. This is evidence the war is serious. Wow, the war is serious? What? No fucking shit.
Seriously, I can state that the situation is deteriorating. Right now, about 17% of our oil refining capacity is said to be disrupted. Of course, this isn't an average picture.
This is why there's no second mobilization in Russia. The government is scared that this could make a lot of people fucking mad. In Leipzig, even where I live, there's Russian men that fled Russia, right? Like, you literally lost them as workforce, as taxpayers.
The whole country, we have to look at the European part. The fuel crisis is developing now. The voices of those who say that we have to switch to ration consumption using coupons, basically fuel cards, are becoming louder and louder. Yes, things in Russia are bad, and they're only going to get worse.
She slipped in my fingers like sand. Heard that she had a